We are already 2 episodes deep into The Last of Us television show, but there's one key factor that might just be keeping us all up at night. Flour? I hardly knew her. Many people might have missed it, but flour is actually a key component in this version of The Last of Us. Why is everyone obsessed with the baked goods in the first episode?
Where's the pancake mix?
Oh, was that? Yeah, it was. Sorry.
I was gonna make you birthday pancakes.
I mean, we have Sarah talking about pancakes with Joel, and the neighbors baking cookies for her.
I was thinking we'd make some cookies.
Chocolate chip?
Raisin.
Why is there such an emphasis on baking? And why is it all focused on flour? The extended section of the opening episode wasn't just there to fill out the characters. I mean, it was definitely there for that. We got more insight into Sarah, who she was before she died, and her relationship with her father than we ever got in the games.
Okay. You're okay. You're okay. Move your hand, baby. Move your hand.
Even though we did get a good amount of information in The Last of Us, the television show takes it to a whole new level. We get a full 20-minute sequence that shows the life of Sarah during the day of the outbreak. But this scene actually is even more important than we thought.
We got a lot of extra here. Y'all want some biscuits?
Dad, you love biscuits.
I do. But I'm on Atkins.
As baking plays heavily into what went down during the first episode. What do we mean by baking? What the hell does that have to do with an apocalypse? And a bunch of the zombie-infected type people showing up? Well, it's actually more in-depth than you might think. For those of you avid video game fans, this might have gone completely over your head. As in the original game, this doesn't feature in the slightest.
You know, I've never been this close to the outside. Look how dark it is.
As we all know at this point, the television series had to take some liberties to bring the story to life, from Tess's death to the backstory of certain characters. But one of the biggest liberties that they took was how the outbreak actually started, and how things are working in a post-outbreak world. First of all, many of you keen-eyed viewers, and those of you who paid attention to the dialogue, should have realized that the infected were quite different in this version. I mean, have you seen them? Joel explained that they are all interlinked through underground ley lines of mushrooms. Stepping on one batch of cordyceps will trigger a whole group of infected in another area. Yeah, that's definitely different from the games. The other difference is the idea of spores. Wait, what? Spores? Yeah, in the series, the spores don't actually exist. In the video game, the characters would have had to have put gas masks on their faces if they entered an infected area. This is one of the reasons why Ellie's immunity is so important later down the line. As even if her mask ends up breaking, nothing will happen to her because of how these spores work in the video game. Some liberties had to be taken for this series. I mean, if this were real life, these spores would be absolutely everywhere. You just wouldn't be safe, would you? The spores will float through the air and take over anyone who comes in contact with them. The game isn't realistic, is it? This is why the series had to remove these spores and replace them with the underground ley lines. But what does this all have to do with baking and cooking? Well, it was all but established that the outbreak started due to flour and other baking materials.
You know what? My dad's gonna be back real soon. I should go.
You sure?
Yeah.
Well, you're taking some cookies.
This is why Sarah and Joel's next-door neighbors are the first to be infected around them. They used flour from the city, which infected the grandmother who ate the first batch. But why aren't Sarah and Joel affected during this part? Sarah was all out of flour, meaning she couldn't make the pancakes for her dad's birthday.
You know, I don't really like pancakes.
I know you don't like them. It's for my benefit.
Also, later on in the episode, Joel forgets to bring a cake home. Again, staying away from any baking material. God, they really got away with it barely, didn't they?
That doesn't mean anything to you. I'm sorry.
Where's the cake?
Time and time again in the first episode, the series heavily draws attention to what they are all eating and don't eat. I mean, it was intersected really well, but kind of weird that they kept mentioning it, right? It just had to have some sort of meaning, and this is exactly it. They only eat eggs and drink orange juice because they can't celebrate Joel's birthday with pancakes or a cake. Both Joel and Sarah, as well as Tommy, all refused the Adlers' offer of homemade biscuits, much to the disappointment of the family. And we thought it was just a heartfelt moment between the two, but in reality, it was a true plot point for further episodes of The Last of Us. God, this is just getting insane, isn't it? The show is so well detailed. We cannot wait for more episodes in the coming weeks. Throughout the first act of the episode, Joel and his family are dodging these treats as their lives depend on it. And honestly, they really do depend on it. Anyone who did eat a biscuit, just like the Adler's mother, became one of the first cordyceps infected that we met on the show. Remember the scene where Sarah walks into the house and all of the Adlers are torn apart? Yeah, that's exactly what we mean. The logical conclusion to all of this is that the infection started spreading as a result of food containing a contaminated ingredient. We can't really pinpoint exactly what the ingredient is, as the show hasn't specified as of yet, but the only thing linking the pancakes, cookies, cakes, and biscuits together is of course flour, meaning it's most likely the culprit. Move over, spinach, we have a new transformative foodstuff in town, as anything with flour in it might just turn you into a walking fungus. I guess there really is a fungus among us. At the end of the day, as sad as it was seeing Sarah and Joel not celebrating his birthday with an actual cake or even pancakes in the morning, it looks like this forgetfulness was actually best for the two, as Joel prevented his family from being taken over by the infected. Thank Christ. We might not have had a series if all that happened. Ellie would be dead by now for sure. All of these near misses are exactly what the series is about, and they don't shy away from the fact that Joel is truly lucky. I mean, throughout the time jump, he hasn't been infected at all, and Ellie has been scratched twice now. Joel is really lucky, or maybe he's just built differently. I mean, have you seen him around the zombies? He's an absolute beast. But we are waiting for some conflicts with real humans, as they actually removed a huge scene where Joel would have to fight some. Episode 2 should have seen Joel fight all of those people the infected ended up killing in the Firefly base. Maybe they're saving conflict with humans for the end? I mean, it would make the whole hospital sequence much darker, but we already know that in this universe, Joel can be pretty ruthless. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. This version of the infected is still super dangerous, and it's honestly going to raise the stakes for The Last of Us going forward. Rather than creeping through infected locations worrying about breathing the spores in, we are now going to have to worry about standing in the wrong place. God, it's going to be tense. Just imagine a stealth sequence from the game with everything turned up to 11. The danger is lurking around every corner, or sometimes it's just nestled in your breakfast.